yeah, the stones, everything else, they have to obey, and they cannot object to their duty, whatever task or duty they've been assigned, they have to go by it.
Yeah, it's inevitable.
Which, yeah, I don't know if you would call that panpsychic.
I can't see a contradiction. As I said, I think truth can exist anywhere except in contradiction to fact, and there's no certainly provable factual contradiction in what you just said, so I'm happy with it as an option.
Yeah. Forgive me for
No,
asking.
that's fine.
So, what are you discussing, panpsychism? Or?
Well, we were actually aiming for original
Lots
sin,
of
but we're
topics.
coming in via the hard problem of consciousness,
my favorite, yeah.
which is great.
Just come here. I think you're
Am I in the
blocking.
way?
And,
Are you?
Yeah, we are recording.
and
You can
Hashim,
stand here, away from the frame.
Sorry,
No, you can. You can. If you don't want to be in the camera, you can stay away.
I don't mind, but you carry on.
If you don't mind, then come here. Then. All I was saying is not to block the camera. That's all.
All right.
because Hashim did say something very interesting about, we're looking at the different models of how qualia, stroke the soul, stroke consciousness, can relate to the body, because we're agreeing they exist. The first option is the classical view that it somehow descends, I'm using a metaphor, okay? Descends into the body and drives it around a bit and then kind of leaves it again.
When you die, yeah?
Maybe when you die, yeah. I'll take
When does
that.
it leave?
Let's call that the classical model, if you like. Is
Okay.
that okay? The classical model.
That's fine.
Okay. So that's option one. Option two is option three is the panpsychic idea that everything has got an ambient level of qualia, which means that all of your body obviously carried this property, and it's very kind of Spinoza. That's option three, and Hashim has said he doesn't see that necessarily contradicts an Islamic view. Option two, however,
sorry,
I'm guessing will.
just small correction. So
Yeah.
if you're going to use qualia, because I so far I think using soul and qualia interchangeably, I don't believe that these non-sentient things like rocks and planets and stars have a soul.
Okay.
Just to correct you there.
Okay, because a soul, I would say, has got a moral compass
Yeah.
built in.
So I don't know what kind of makeup they have, but they are not responsible like the free will creatures are.
Okay, thank you. That's okay. How about listen? How about in a panpsychic universe, the objects may have qualia, but they have no fitra. Does that work?
They
for
have
you?
no what?
Fitra.
How would you define fitra?
I use it in a broader sense when we're coming to original
Because
sin.
I
of
think
a
anyone
moral-
who has a soul has a fitra.
Yeah, I agree.
Otherwise, they don't.
Yeah, no, I think we do. So I think the distinction would hold that we'd agree this, even if it has qualia, it doesn't have a fitra, whereas we do have a fitra, and I'm defining
Okay.
fitra as being an inherent moral compass, yeah?
Yes. So it's like your natural disposition, your inherent, property to identify something is right and wrong. Yes.
An inherent moral compass means you have a due north, you have an optimum direction to head in, and the more you diverge from that optimum path, the more you will be in a state of, let's call it sin or error or whatever. So you want to be aiming as aligned as possible with your fitra. That's what fitra's there for. And you land with it built in, yeah?
Yeah.
We have an a priori hardwiring which points us in that direction. Now, I think that's true whether you're an atheist or not. Even if you're Darwinian, every entity lands with a predisposition, yeah? The difference where the atheists might differ with the religious people, I think including you and I are on the same, we're hoping that the fitra is pointing in a profound and uplifting direction, whereas they
If
might
you want
argue...
to call it some form of moral compass, I'm okay with
You
that.
okay with that?
Yeah.
Thing is,
Okay.
the way you're phrasing it, it applies to animate and inanimate.
Applies to what?
Animate and inanimate objects.
The way you're phrasing it.
No,
was
because,
wondering if you did
because
that
it's
deliberately.
occurring within qualia, it's felt, it's a choice. It's choice-based. And these things don't make choices, but we do, as you just said.
But
So-
these things don't have soul either.
No, they don't have soul.
And that's why things like qualia, things like fitra only apply to things with souls.
Yeah.
And those things which are sentient
Okay.
and not inanimate objects.
Yeah.
I'm not saying inanimate objects go against what God has created them for.
Okay.
But like I said, they are different to us. That's the reason we call them inanimate.
We're doing good work here. This is cool. Okay, so I think what you're saying is that qualia, souls are a subset of qualia, yeah? Not everything that has everything...
I think it's the other way around.
Go on.
Yeah.
How? This bottle.
Your qualia
Yeah.
is a subset of the soul.
I thought you've defined souls as something which has a fitra and a moral compass.
Yeah, so all that is a subset of soul.
Okay, but in panpsychism...
Your moral compass, your fitra, your consciousness,
Got it.
all that emanates from your soul.
Okay, and we agreed that in a panpsychic universe, this would have qualia, but you said it wouldn't have a moral compass, it wouldn't have a fixture, and we agreed.
No, but like I said, if it doesn't have a soul,
Yeah,
then
but it does have qualia.
all these other things which come with the soul are not applicable to it. But like I said, all they are doing is they're following God in the sense for what they were created for.
Yeah,
All right? Whereas we are created for God also for the purpose of worship. Allah says in the Quran, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. So our creation is for that purpose. However, the difference here is that we have a choice. We have free will.
Yeah.
So we can choose to obey or we can choose to disobey, which is going away from the reason. When you disobey, you're going
away from your fixture.
Yeah, away from what you were created for.
Agreed.
For the purpose of your creation.
Yeah,
Yes?
so we agree.
So we have a purpose, whereas all the other things have like a fixed purpose.
Yeah.
Yes, they
Yeah,
have to obey.
Okay, we're buying that.
Yeah, so I think if
we're
that
going to have
clarifies
to
things.
disagree about whether qualia is a subset
Yes.
of the soul or vice versa, and
Yeah.
maybe your viewers can hammer through that one afterwards, but we're still basically on the same page, yeah?
Do you agree on what the meaning of soul?
No, we're trying to
You're
keep
not-
it more general so that we're still in agreement. So we're agreeing that qualia and the soul may be synonymous or subsets of each other. Qualia is,
Well-
qualia is undeniable.
They're
Yeah?
not synonymous if they're subsets one of the other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So soul and qualia in
Soul
this
and
discussion seem
qualia
to
are
be
things
distinct.
which I'm
Are clearly
assuming
distinct.
material objects don't have. This doesn't have, unless you're a panpsychic.
Right.
And maybe I should pull back from panpsychism now, because because that was option 3. Option 2 was the one I'm guessing you'll definitely disagree with, which is that we start with just matter, and then consciousness somehow evolves out of it. Yeah, which is the materialist view. Yeah,
Definitely.
Now that you would disagree with.
Because I don't think material things all of a sudden become conscious.
I got to agree with you. I find the idea totally mind-boggling. On the other hand, I'm aware I'm in a mind-boggling universe, so maybe I can't just trust my gut.
Well, earlier you mentioned fact, and earlier we also have our own reasoning, our consciousness, and tells us all the time that we cannot accept something which is contradictory.
Agree.
Yes?
Because we agree in the principle of
So
self-consistency.
if anybody comes and tells me that I'm a married bachelor, I say, what are you on about? You're either married or you're a bachelor. You can't have it both ways. So it's a contradiction in terms. People might use terms like paradoxes and stuff like that. But now, then you will just accept anything. And that becomes problematic. As human beings, our fitra will not accept things which are contradictory in nature. Do you agree?
That's not helping.
That is not helping at
That
all.
is not helping. This is very deep. It's for what I say next is very.
Go on, feel free. I mean, use your fitra.
You're saying it's absolutely incompatible. I think what's been identified here is.
Tony, you're a smart person. Come on. Would you accept something that is contradictory?
No, I wouldn't, but I'm not accepting necessarily your analysis that the scenario we're discussing is contradictory.
Which
The
part is
scenario
contradictory?
is you think it's contradictory that qualia could emerge from the material world, yeah?
Yeah, it is. Because
Okay, I think it's
if you can show
mind-blowing.
me,
I think it's mind-blowing, but I don't think it's per se
if you can show me anywhere in the universe any example of something which is just material, without consciousness, without being aware of its environment and having control over the environment, all of a sudden starts thinking. We are not watching a Hollywood.
I would say, yeah, if
We are not watching a Hollywood movie like I don't know, Terminator or something like that. Where all of a sudden these machines become conscious and take control of the world.
I know you don't.
That's science fiction to me.
I know, and I can totally understand why, because it's a mind-blowing concept. Okay.
Because consciousness is very precious and it's something I consider it to be a miracle. I
I-
consider it to be something quite special, and it doesn't just come about out of nowhere.
Why do you say it's a contradiction?
What is contradiction?
So I'm with you there.
You with me?
Yes, that the idea that consciousness emerges from material objects
By itself.
by itself
Becomes aware all of a sudden.
seems to me to be untenable, but not a contradiction. Untenable on
Yes.
the basis of what
thank
we
you.
understand about the
You might
world.
want to come in a bit on the mic.
Okay,
wanna
so
go ahead?
what I mean,
No, we're fine.
what I mean by contradiction
Sure,
is
it
that
gets
if something which is defined clearly as being just material without consciousness. Yes? Unless you can show me an example where it all of a sudden develops consciousness, then this belief, okay,
Saying
maybe
that
the
something
term.
does not happen is
Yeah,
not
I
the same
agree.
as saying that it's a contradiction.
So maybe the term.
Thank you. Thank
Okay,
you.
so maybe it's the wrong term I'm using.
Yeah.
Contradiction.
You're saying it
It's
does
not.
not happen in the
Yeah,
same.
it's something which is not comprehensible.
Oh yeah, no, if you're saying it
Yeah.
totally
Not
blows my
acceptable as
common
something that
sense,
happens.
yeah, my common sense, your common sense.
Fair enough.
But I think, unfortunately, what we've learned from, and I keep quoting these three things, from quantum physics, and from Gödel's incompleteness theorem, and from Hume's fallacy of induction, which I've seen Mohammed Hijab quote, is that there are limitations on what our cognitive mind can grasp, yeah? And that nonetheless the universe does indeed create phenomena which will always just defy our sense of common sense. So what that means is, although our instinct for common sense is a very, very powerful and useful tool, it's not absolute and it's got limitations, and it's very wise to understand those limitations. Hence, I can't discount the possibility that qualia actually emerges through matter in ways I just can't understand. However, in accepting that...
Would you consider that to be a speculation?
Oh
right
yeah,
now?
no, it's definitely a speculation.
Okay, so it's not even a theory. It's just speculation.
No.
Because to me, a theory it surpasses opinions and.
No, I think it's a legitimate in the theories which are there of the classical model qualia descends, which is a legitimate theory, and I give that about a 20% chance. No offense.
No, but even your when you say descents again, as we discuss, for you the origin of that qualia is still a speculation.
Oh, for sure.
You see what I mean?
Guessing.
So you're starting with a basis which is speculative, and then you're building on that. Okay, give me one miracle, and then I'll build the rest on this.
No, I'm starting I'm starting with the miracle itself.
That's
I know
what I'm
I
saying.
am. So I'm not coming at it from the outside and trying to prove I
No, but
am.
I'm agreeing with you.
We're starting on the
This
inside
is
and
your
going,
view,
I
and
know I am.
I'm just clarifying it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we're on the same page.
Yeah.
So I'll give it about a 20% chance the soul descended. If you can accept I'm using that word.
Yeah.
The classical model.
The source is unknown. Let's
Yeah,
say
the source
from
is
there
unknown.
onwards.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
Oh, wait, no, in all of these cases it's unknown. The source is unknown. So the God option is always there. I'm just saying there's the classical model where it descends. There's the panpsychic model where it's kind of inherent, but we still don't know how it happened. And I give that probably now about 30% chance. I'm starting to veer more and more that way.
Oh, hold on. You mean the panpsychic?
Yeah.
Why would you give it 30% chance? Because if everything is inherently conscious, then I think
Well, it has
that
qualia.
speculation is much higher than the number one.
I
that
know.
you put.
I started
So
out.
how can you give that 30% and this 20%?
You're right. I know I sound like an idiot. I started out like that, but as I keep looking at it, because I believe in the same principle as you of self-consistency, the Platonic.
There's something odd here. So I don't understand what you mean precisely by qualia here, the way you're speaking, right? But you appear to be saying
I
that...
should define the terms.
Not qualia, I mean panpsychism. I don't understand exactly what you mean
The
by
idea that objects, things with matter and energy,
Okay, in that case,
also have an ambient level of qualia,
there's
however
something
low
odd here.
level.
There's something odd here. So you said just now, on the one hand, that you think we seem to be agreeing that saying that consciousness emerges from material objects by itself
Is one option.
But seems untenable, right?
No, I think.
When I used the word untenable, you said yes.
No, I think the idea that it emerges from seems absolutely mind-boggling.
Mind-boggling.
But I think all the options are mind-boggling, and therefore I shouldn't rebel at the
world
idea
itself
that
is
the idea of
mind-boggling.
an external creator
Tony,
is
Just let me say what the
mind-boggling.
problem is. So then if you say also simultaneously that the world is conscious, which is what you appear to be saying, so the world cannot consciousness cannot arise from material objects. The world is full of material objects, and material objects are all conscious. So there's something odd in this. There's a problem here.
Is that where the contradiction is?
Now we're getting.
There seems to be a problem.
I think we're getting blurred. Okay,
Yeah,
let me backtrack.
I don't
Option one,
understand
the
what you're
classical model, it descends. Option two, panpsychism, which is that all matter has got an inherent level of qualia. The reason that's interesting is it destroys the hard problem dichotomy. The hard problem dichotomy assumes that there are two things. Matter and energy, which has obviously matter and energy, objects which have matter and energy, and qualia, consciousness, which has no matter and energy, and it goes, this is a hard problem, we can't solve it. Panpsychism, for all of its apparent stupidity, I have to give it some credit, it does remove the dichotomy completely and go, no, they're all the same thing, you're just seeing it wrong. And for that reason, I have to give it some code.
So let me ask you this, Tony. What about man-made objects? Do you think they have qualia in the panpsychic model?
The panpsychic model would go a hydrogen atom. Stupid as it sounds, it would go a hydrogen atom that's got an ambient level of qualia. Okay. Now, for all of its stupidity, that solves a whole load of other problems further down the line. Now, I'm not saying this is the way it is. I'm just saying I'm keeping that notion on the boil, along with other ideas.
So what this is saying is that the question or the assertion that consciousness, it is mind-boggling that consciousness arises from material objects is a non-assertion because material objects have qualia. So the question doesn't arise.
No, I'm saying my mind is boggled whichever way.
So the question does not arise, it is boggled by something else.
Yeah.
Your mind is boggled by something else.
My mind's going to get boggled anyway.
It is not boggled by this question because for you this question is for the person who's panpsychic.
I think
the question doesn't arise.
It will help if we speculate less, because then we could, like I said earlier, we could then speculate about everything and anything, and then the whole discussion is just derailed.
Yeah.
So if we keep reality in check here.
Okay, let's go to original sin then.
Let's do that.
We can go.
Because I don't want to be honest, I'm not a fan of speculating unnecessarily. I mean, there are certain things which you can, imagine, like for example, about the soul, like even though we don't have much knowledge about it, we can assume certain things. Like every human being, yes, unless you're an android or something, yes, you have consciousness. I can make that assertion, So even though I don't have empirical evidence for it, I have subjective evidence because I can only understand my consciousness.
Sure.
Yes, I know how I feel, but I can look at somebody's body language and tell how they're feeling.
Unless you're lambda.
You see what I mean?
Through empathy.
Which
is where original sin is at.
Unless you're lambda 3 in relationship.
Unless you're what?
You're right. Did you read that stuff about Google and that
lambda 3.
Yeah.
What's this? Lambda?
That language processing program that is the guy, one of the engineers who worked on it said this is conscious.
Yeah, artificial intelligence.
Oh, that thing. I'm very skeptical.
Of course, it's nonsense.
But I won't close down options. I play the odds, and just because something sounds crazy.
Back to Terminator.
Back to Terminator. Okay. Can I? We'll move on to let's move on to original sin. But in recapping where we were, we presented 3 different options. Can I just code it up by going, whichever of the 3 they are, they're all mind-boggling, and as far as I'm concerned, none of them exclude the idea of the kind of God you're talking about. He might be just operating through a slightly different mechanism. So even if it arises from matter, I'm not excluding the possibility God may be doing it that way. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay? So, there we go. Okay, great.
It's a theory. Sorry, it's your opinion.
Whichever of the
that,
3 it is, it doesn't necessarily knock
we
out
cannot
the idea.
discount God from any of them.
Right, exactly, which is cool. Okay. So, original sin, where are we at?
I think we have to start from the beginning, I guess.
From the beginning?
Yes, the Genesis.
Okay, original sin. To me, I think I see most of this as like evolutionary psychology in the Jordan Peterson tradition. So I look at the creation story, which is common to all of the Abrahamic religions, and I assume that either they're talking nonsense or they put some very powerful insights into the beginning bit. Yeah, the beginning of the book is the important bit, right? And it seems to me that the pivotal bit is obviously man getting created, but then the pivotal bit in the narrative of human beings is when we eat the apple. Can we agree on that?
Yeah, so, I mean, before we do that about what is original sin, let's define what is sin.
Okay, that's actually going to be more cut. What do we?
Because that's the important, essence of this topic.
Okay.
The term sin.
Okay. I'm defining sin as it's an incremental thing, and it's the further you move away from your fitra. So you have a moral compass, which I would align with fitra. The more you're aligned with your fitra, the less you are sinning. Yeah. The more you misalign, the more you're sinning.
Are you coming at this from a Christian point of view?
I'm trying to come in from a multi-faith point of view because I think the concept of everybody having a moral compass.
He's not.
I'm
That's
a fan.
what I define him as.
You guys are probably well. I'm not an atheist in the classical sense.
Yeah, of course. That's right.
Because
to me, Buddhists are also atheists, but they're also spiritual atheists. See what I mean?
Yeah, Buddhists.
So not in that sense.
Okay.
They are atheists as the classical term atheists, but they are. I would call them spiritual atheists.
Okay, thank you.
Because they deny God, but they don't deny that there is something other than just the material world.
Yeah, which would be stupid. If you're denying if you think the material world is all that's there, you can't deny quality.
So are you okay with that term, spiritual
Yeah,
atheist?
actually, thank you. I might label myself that because I'm sick of being flagged on videos as being atheist.
Yeah, you're not,
It's not that simple. So it seems to me the apple, oh, you want to define sin. I'm saying it's the degree to which you misalign from your fitra. You have a moral compass, and the more you misalign from it, the more you're in sin. Does that work for you?
Yeah, so for us, fitra is something that when you are like there's a hadith which says that everyone is born upon the fitra, and then their parents make them either a Jew, a Christian, a pagan, and so on. Yes. So for us, fitra is submitting to God by our nature, by our intrinsic nature, and then as you grow older, depending on your environment, that gets clouded.
Okay, then I may have misunderstood.
Yes.
You saying fitra is something you do? I thought it was something that was built in.
Yeah, so
that aligned you.
You are built. So that is your intrinsic nature.
Yeah.
Yes, to be obedient to God, to submit to God. In the sense that when you're born as a baby, yeah, you cannot disobey because it's just your nature to be a child, maybe to cry, to wake up for food and then cry and stuff like that, eat food, sleep. So that's your nature. You're not doing anything against God. But when you grow older, then let's say you have been instructed not to lie, and then you lie, then that is you going away from your fitra.
Yeah.
If you see what I mean.
Yeah, we agree. So choice can steer you away from your fitra, but you land with an a priori predisposition, yeah? Okay, so we agree on that. And I think what's interesting, if we're trying to keep everyone on the same page, is even if you're an atheist or a Darwinian, in a sense you believe in a fitra. You believe that a shark is born with a predisposition, yeah? You believe a cat is born with a predisposition. You believe a human being.
When I say the term sin, I'm talking about the entities which have a choice.
Right, this is the line.
Everything else, I don't think they... So they might, for example, when a goat, I don't know, tries to harm another goat, say the one with the horns harms another goat without horns or something like that, I wouldn't call it a sin.
No, me neither.
Yeah, so let's try to keep things in perspective.
Well, we are, but actually this. I think we might nail this down. I think it's not just having a choice, it's having an informed choice. I think the goat doesn't have an informed choice about what it's doing. Human beings do have an informed choice, and the source of that informedness is metaphorically or literally when the apple gets eaten at the beginning. That's when you go from being an uninformed chooser to someone who now is making an informed choice in a moral landscape, and at that moment sin is born and your fitra. Now you can choose to deviate from your fitra. Prior to that moment, you weren't making informed choices. And
I wouldn't agree with that. The reason for that is because when you talked about informed choice, so both in Christianity and Islam, and I believe in Judaism as well, Adam was informed not to eat of that fruit. So the information was already there. He disobeys that, or in the case of Islam, he actually forgets it. He didn't do it intentionally.
Really?
Yes. And this
forgot.
is in the Quran, yes. It is in the Quran. Because one of the natures of human being is that he forgets.
Did they explain by what mechanism he forgot? I'm curious.
Do you remember the ayah?
That's why we call it insan.
Insan, yes. Very good.
Yes. So what happens? God says don't eat the apple.
Yes,
and
because
then,
we don't know how much time transpired between God instructing Adam not to eat and him eating it.
Because Adam lived along like hundreds of years.
We don't know how long. So this is the knowledge from unknown.
Wow.
So like the brother said, the definition of insan is one who forgets.
Okay.
Yeah?
So by one...
From the word nasi, which means forget.
Nas.
Okay.
And insan means someone who tends to forget a lot.
Right.
So it's the root word is coming from someone who forgets. So forgetful or something like that. And this is actually in the Quran, you know?
Okay.
The fact that he forgot.
I've never heard it that way.
Yes. Many
now,
people
you
haven't.
understand I don't take this literally, I take this to be a myth.
Yeah,
I
of
know
course.
you take it literally.
Yeah.
But trying to find the
but I'm
common
just telling
ground
you,
on it.
where I differ with you is with regards to the informed choice and uninformed choice. That's where I differ with you.
Okay, maybe I'm using the wrong terms because if we
Well,
don't
actually-
agree on this...
Actually, you use the term which kind of fits with what you're saying, but would not fit with what you're saying.
Which would not what?
What we say, which is use the term sin is born, or
Yeah,
sin
yeah,
favors
yeah.
the world.
This
is a very Christian way of looking at it, and we don't look at it like this.
I see what you mean.
Well, I'm...
Because this, and you say what you say,
No, but
because,
even
because of your concept of
Strangely
informed
enough, I
choice.
agree with the Muslims.
but even in
I
Christianity,
think the Christians have got their understanding
just-
wrong
just
of
to
original sin, and you guys are taking issue with them, and I think correctly. I think they've lost. I think their intuition is good, but their explanation has gone awry.
Because we don't believe God is unjust, like the sin would be, I don't know, inherited by the children for something that the parents did.
Yeah, it's stupid.
Yeah, to me, God, that would be unjust of God to do that. You're born with a negative account from day one.
Yeah, we agree.
There's this thing about sin being born is a problem, or being brought into the world is problematic. Like, let me say why. If you're kind of reifying the concept, okay? You are meaning you are taking a concept and making it into an object, all right, into something real. When it's just so sin for us is just the concept of disobedience of God. That's what sin is.
We're agreeing it's misalignment from your fitra. Yeah?
Well,
if we define it that way, we're on the same page.
If we stick to our kind of terminology for a minute.
Yeah, so for us, the term sin
then we can
is something which is
we can map
quite
our terminology
specific.
to your terminology.
Okay.
Yeah.
But let's get our terminology understood, all right? Our terminology is that sin is disobedience of Allah.
And the same in Christianity.
And how is that not?
No.
How is that
That's
not?
why I'm making that distinction.
Okay, so how do the Christians
The
define
Christians say sin is, they say have three definitions, and they often say it's going off the mark, which is precisely what I say.
Yes, no, and in the
They talk about
some
the arrow and
Christians
stuff
see it
and
that
missing the
way.
mark.
Did you see Hamza Yusuf's chat with Jordan Peterson recently
I
on his
didn't.
podcast? It was very good. Hamza Yusuf pointed out that in all the Abrahamic religions, they use metaphors of archery, to describe things, which is the notion of how close to the bullseye can you get.
missing the mark?
Yeah, no, but-
And that the
sin-
fitra is rather like that. The fitra is the bullseye you aim towards.
Right.
And that all religions have got that concept. It's a non-dualistic concept.
But that itself is not. You see, the concept of sin is one concept within the constellation of concepts that Hamza Yusuf is referring to here. Okay, so we're just talking about the one concept here now, the sin.
I mean, in Islam, it's pretty clear. Like Brother Tariq said, it's disobedience. So when Allah instructs you to do something,
Let's be clear on
and so the instructions are clear. In Islam, halal and haram are clear. So if Allah says don't drink alcohol, and a Muslim drinks alcohol, yes, then he is sinning. Simple as that.
Oh no, I get it simple.
So, this is not something which is a gray area in Islam with regards to sinning. Otherwise, it would be unfair of God to punish someone for something they have not, the instructions weren't clear. When the instruction for Adam was not to eat of that fruit, which was clear, and he did eat of that fruit, then that would be considered as disobedience.
Sure.
But in the case of Adam, yes, like I said, it was more from the Islamic perspective, or the narrative is more of forgetfulness rather than, but because
the relationship with fitra. The relationship with fitra is that it is in our nature to wish to obey Allah.
Yeah, okay, we can concur on that.
But
if we use,
sin
if you're
itself-
happy to accept I'm doing it a bit more metaphorically than you are, then we agree.
yeah. So sin for us is simply the concept of disobedience of Allah. Fitra for us is the nature that we have to not sin.
But I assume,
Okay, but the fact that
those
we
two
sin-
things will ally, that the rules that God gives you will be the rules which will keep you aligned with your fitra.
There's nothing in Islam which is
There won't
exactly.
ever be a conflict between those two things.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Allah
so
does not give us
like I
something
said,
to
look,
do.
So in a way,
Very good.
the issue of whether or
Spot on.
not God sent it can be put aside. I'm not saying he did or he didn't, but we have a common agreement that fitra is the way to go and it's unavoidable. So I'm starting from the point of view of I know I am, and I inevitably have to have a compass.
But we need to differentiate between your natural disposition, your fitra, what you were created, the way you were inherently created and brought to earth, then identifying the term sin, because the two things are not. They're not synonymous.
Well, in my mind, I can see how they do work.
They do work together.
No, they work in tandem.
Yeah.
No one is denying that.
Okay.
But what we are saying is we have a distinct definition for everything. In order to communicate things clearly. Otherwise, look, for us, when we say the Yawm al-Akhirah, we talk about the Day of Judgment. Yes, that is taken very seriously. So there cannot be ifs and buts about it. There cannot be a gray area. Otherwise, it wouldn't be fair on the person who is getting punished for eternity. Yes, so it's and this is pretty serious, isn't it?
I'm not happy with that idea.
Yeah, I know. That's a completely different topic. So what we are saying is that Allah has to be clear on certain things.
What's your name? Let me say,
Harun, that's it.
Excuse me.
Brother
Sorry,
doing a
Web.
good job.
Hi, excuse me, Web.
Sorry.
just one other point regarding.
Hello,
what was the point I was making? Well,
Assalamu alaikum. How are you
the,
doing? All right?
the,
Oh, I'm
idea,
sorry, I didn't realise. Sorry. Sorry.
the idea of fitra is not necessarily obvious to us. You said this yourself earlier on that the world is complex, quantum mechanics, all that stuff, right? And our intuition is not always the best guide. This is why we have the Quran al-Kareem, and this is why Allah gives us guidance.
That's why Allah has clearly stated the halal and the haram in the Quran, and the things which are permitted and which are forbidden. Yes?
I understand. I'm trying to find common ground, given that you know I don't believe in such a literalist interpretation. In that I